Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another amazing episode of Always Be Testing. Brook, what's up, man?
Um, Thank you for having me, Ty. It's a pleasure to see you again.
It's good to see you. We just had a beautiful lunch with our friend Kyle Schumacher. May he be named in lights on this pod. We're here at the Capitol Factory in downtown Austin, and it's good to see you in person.
Great to see you.
Let's go. You made a good observation on our attire just now.
Yes, the both sides of Austin, the cowboy boots and the flip flops.
We're covering everything. um, yeah, we're here on the eve of Affiliate Summit East. We'll all be in New York shortly, right?
I will not be there.
You will not be there.
We're
That's
doing a
right.
month in Japan with the family,
Ah,
which is super exciting.
way
And
better.
although I'm not looking forward to the flight.
That would be my biggest fear, and I will say that is like my probably top bucket list thing.
Yeah, there's this program called Boundless, and they do schools around the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so 1 month stints and 3 month stints. We're doing the former, and I've heard it's awesome. I'll report back.
Wow, I can't wait to check that out. Always wanted to go and heard nothing but amazing things.
Will be my first time.
Yeah. Bring in the kiddos.
That's yeah. So the older two do the school thing, and then we'll have some help with the children,
Yeah.
and so we should be able to do all the things, including work. They have a co-working space for the parents.
Wow. Now I'm really interested.
Yeah.
Good
I'll send you
deal.
the details. Throw a note in the throw the link in the chat notes.
There you go.
An affiliate link.
The true affiliate way, as we'll get into.
Yes.
Well, Brook Schaaf is a legend in the affiliate industry. He's been on multiple sides of the business, agency, great retail experience, brand experience, building out, co-founded FMTC, very important tech player in the space, right?
Small but mighty.
and now an author. Got a new book coming out, which we're excited to talk about. Tell us a little bit about what you got cooking with this book, because I think that's something very interesting for the industry. For you and I, we've talked about it, but affiliate hypotheses. What's going on?
Yeah. So the book has been cooking for a few years.
Hmm.
I write a lot, but not especially quickly. For that, I think it's come out better because there's been a lot more to kind of absorb over the years and process. And the book is kind of two things, in part it's a love letter to affiliate marketing, and it's also a call to arms for our channel. And I suppose maybe it's three things. It's an explanation of the channel as well, which I argue it is a channel as opposed to a form of payment. And so on the love letter part, it's very elegant. It allows for big and small players to come in the space, hang one of a number of shingles from an agency to a publisher, to a bigger platform. Um, and there are just so many great stories and great people in our space. And it's a call to arms in the sense that I argue our channel should be multiples larger.
Yeah, I love that. It echoes a lot of the things that we've talked about, having worked together in the industry for so long and champion the industry and trying to kind of educate people on what it is and what it isn't, which is an ongoing thing. We've talked about this a lot around. I love how it's so democratized. There's so many players in the game. There's small shops, there's huge ones, there's medium sized ones. There's so many ways to monetize it, and I like that theme that you kind of came up with affiliate hypotheses. What is the kind of key problem that you think that affiliate hypotheses is trying to solve or suggest that maybe industry people or ancillary industry people are still trying to understand?
So the specific conjecture is that affiliate as a form of monetization is the best, indeed sometimes the only way to monetize certain things. And one of the people I talked to for the book, out of many, including you, a big thank you to everybody who gave me time, was Jared Grimm, whose company was acquired years ago by Impact, and he made this very interesting point that affiliate, though not called such, is sort of like the native form of monetization of the web, right? Like you have commercial intent, you have commercial action, and the two can be tracked from impression through the click to the action. So we don't think of, Google or Facebook or open web programmatic as being affiliate links, but this idea of the harvesting and the monitoring of this commercial traffic, you know, kind of is affiliate-ish, even if we have a more specific definition. And so the thought is, look, anything that is commercially relevant accrues benefit to the recipient of that traffic, or in the LLM era, the person or the company who is even just mentioned. And so if that can be monetized as through, affiliate monetization methodologies, which now, go beyond the commission and even the click for us with like hybrid deals, then it should be monetized, in as much as is, fair and ethical and so forth. And that is what we have not been doing a great job of doing, but I think it's pressing for us to do so. The subtitle that we ended up with, shout out to the Forbes Advantage team, is universal link monetization to save the open web. Now, we're not going to really get to full universal link monetization, but we can go much, much further. And if we do so, I think that it can help to save the open web, which, in the LLM answer engine era is actually imperiled because people don't click through to the sites.
Yeah.
You can't show an ad, you can't get an affiliate commission, etc. This is a big challenge facing the open web, and I think it could go ways to
Yeah.
solving the problem.
Yeah. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. When we talk about the open web, for people that are not as familiar with the concept and kind of like, why is it worth saving? You and I think understand that's very important, but like, can you give a little bit of a primer for people on like why that's an important thing to be saving and thinking about?
That's a great question, and I guess we shouldn't just sort of presume it. The internet famously goes back to the DARPA project and the universities being connected, and then mid '90s the World Wide Web blows up.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that it's a societal good because we have access to information. Of course, there's commerce, there are communities, and so on and so forth, and it's just so integral now to our lives. And the internet admittedly has a dark side, but the dark side of human nature predated the internet.
Yep.
But it also for that has a light side, and it's so wonderful to be able to find this information, to enjoy these modern conveniences.
Yep.
And you want to think that anybody out there can participate. They have a fair shot. You can like have your publishing blog about beekeeping, whether or not you're making money from it.
Yep.
And so there has to be an infrastructure to support that, and this really speaks to that.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's a great reminder for people, and I think kind of progressing through the thoughts of the affiliate hypotheses, and you're making a case for affiliate in all the right ways, and not going in like, hey, it's perfect, but it deserves a bigger awareness, a bigger seat at the table, a bigger investment. Can we? In your perspective, why do you think it's remained smaller, like vis-a-vis like the triopoly, if you will, of Google, Meta, Amazon, others? Like what's behind that, despite it's having its benefits?
Well, great questions, and I think there are two answers, and one's a little bit spicy.
We're gonna get spicy today. Let's go.
I think there's too much of one thing and not enough of another. I think there's too much friction.
Mm-hmm.
Which you've covered many times on this podcast. And then I think there's not enough sociopathy.
Sociopathy. Tell us more about that.
Well, if you look at other players out there, I'm not saying this does not exist in affiliates.
Sure.
But a lot of the other players out there, especially ones that take advertising dollars, are very aggressive about taking and claiming those advertising dollars.
Yep.
So if for the listeners who might not be familiar with this, the open web is in contrast to what's the closed web. In an advertising context, that's a walled garden, right? So in an app, you access all the internet through the app. So Facebook, kind of like a Google.
Within the Amazon app.
Within the Amazon ecosystem.
Yep. Google's kind of straddling a little.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because they have their whole ecosystem of properties.
Yep.
But the idea is that like the closed web, accessible by permission, access can be closed off, access is controlled, as opposed to the open web.
You can be removed if you're not behaving properly, which is part of why affiliate makes a lot of sense strategically.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you look at the players, whether it's open web or closed web, because you have these walled gardens, right? So that's Google, Alphabet, and Facebook, Meta. And then also kind of like Amazon, but Amazon's a little bit different, but they take in tens of billions of dollars with their advertising. but they mostly charge their sellers.
Yep.
So it's sort of a form of seller rent
Yeah.
extraction, where Facebook and Google get money from everybody on the web. And then you have open web programmatic advertising, when you're on the app and you get the screen takeover and all
Yep.
the banner ads. And so those guys are very good at charging very big amounts of money, which are many times what all of the affiliate channel collectively gets. And it is intended to be a little bit playful as well as critical. But I don't think that those pathways necessarily serve the best interests of the advertisers. Now, a lot of people would say, well, affiliate deserves a lot of criticism, and that's undoubtedly fair and reasonable. But the advertiser still has a degree of transparency and control that they do not have in the other channels.
Just double clicking on that point, where, and we don't need to necessarily like try to like totally litigate like Facebook and Google's issues, but it's interesting to me. Um, where are they kind of taking that from the brand as an example, just to give people a sense of like where that's falling short in the transparency side of it for the brand to say, I wasn't really clear that I was giving that up to Google and Meta in this case. Can you like maybe elaborate more on that? I'm curious. We can talk in some of the issues that we see there.
Yeah, one key phrase here is grading your own homework, right? So if you're in the walled garden, they get the
Yes.
tracking pixel,
Yes.
and then they are doing the advertising, right? And now more and more, by the way, a lot of people are not really tuned into this, but it went from being like Google, you buy a keyword, you have negative
Yep.
keywords, and then there's the broad match, but you can do exact match.
Yep.
Now it's more, there's these performance max products, right? And
Algorithmic
so,
driven.
yes, all your money, just tell us your goals, and then
Yeah.
we'll do it. So
Yeah.
what kind of can get lost here, even though it's hyper scrutinized in affiliate and reasonably so, is what's true attribution for that? Where should credit be claimed?
Yeah.
So I referenced this in the book. There was an Ad Exchanger article from last year, the year before, and they interviewed anonymously because they didn't want they didn't want to get into trouble. These advertisers, and they were saying that like some of their walled garden advertising, they literally didn't know how the walled garden knew about the transaction because by their internal metrics, it was so far away.
Mm.
And you'll see that a lot, right? So anything that they get within 10 feet, so there could be the click.
Yeah.
There could be a view through, right? Because impression-based advertising is a thing. Like a billboard makes an impact, but it's less true online if you have ad blindness and you don't see the ad. And so it's very easy for you to claim excessive attribution to yourself when you're grading your own homework.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, the open web programmatic space, it seems to largely be driven by false signals, right? Because the theory is, hey, I want to advertise the target demographic. I buy this whole ad tech stack, and it tells me I'm advertising to a father with children who lives in a certain area. But that information might be bad, right? Like some advertising platform, might think that you're a woman who lives in Florida or something. And there's a lot of case studies about this. Not to mention the fact that like there's all these banner farms made for advertising sites, which take up a double-digit percentage by everybody's admission, by the way. Like the people in that space, they don't pretend otherwise is true. They just sort of talk about it periodically, and they wring their hands and say, "Darned," but the dollars keep flowing. And those dollars, by the way, so made for advertising sites are sites that basically replicate all these desirable signals, and then they suck up all these ads because the ads they're all they're bid, right? So you have like the demand side platform where the advertiser says, hey, I want this, and then the supply side platform where the publisher says, I've got this, and then they meet in the middle with an exchange. And the MFA sites basically send fake signals, and then the dollars flow through. So
Yeah.
it's largely considered wasted money, right?
Yeah.
And those wasted dollars are probably bigger than all the affiliate
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah. I think that's a really good call out. We've talked about programmatic. It's not to say there's, don't necessarily want to say there's zero value in programmatic up here on this in the conversation, but I think there is a really good case to be made that affiliate done right most certainly should have a larger seat at the table. Is probably undercounting in a lot of examples like we've talked about, which is a whole nother topic. And that, programmatic, Google, Meta, all three of those have some very severe pitfalls. I mean, I think about 30-day view through. My goodness, what is that going to mean for somebody? Just the default. I talked about this with Mike, good friend, COO of RBL, in terms of his meta experience and like the depths of that. And like, this was like a year and a half ago, of how if you just go in with default settings, you could easily lose your shirt. It's not to say you shouldn't advertise on Meta. It's not to say you need to cut your spend, but there are a lot of that is happening and not as talked about with the skepticism that's talked about with affiliate or partner or even influencer to an extent. So I think you're onto something here.
Yeah, Kyle made this great point at lunch, which is like if you're Facebook and you know, like or Google and you see so much data, you wouldn't necessarily advertise to who might buy. You can advertise to who is most likely to buy,
Yeah.
and then you get credit for the transaction on the back end.
Yeah.
And so if you take all that together and you say, well, the average overspend is, I don't know, 10%. If these channels are making hundreds of billions of dollars a year, then that 10% also is probably bigger than all of affiliate marketing in a
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah. You're kind of picking on the smaller player. And I think just stepping back, and this is maybe sharing a bit more of my perspective on it, I think that the sooner, and we talked about this at IPX, we talked about this with leadership at Impact, at Rakuten, at Capital One, about various players, to say the sooner partner affiliate corrects some of those really important things that can be corrected and calls out more, the soonest each of these channels can race to trust, where we have such a gap and an issue, which is kind of, my concept we've talked about a lot, and it's a concept we've all dealt with, and I think you touch on in your overall theme of your book. I think the sooner we're going to be able to capture more of that larger pie that's out there in a $1 trillion, I believe.
Yeah, globally, it's $1 trillion now.
Pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy.
Is there a counter argument? We talked about this a little bit prior to this, here, where you get some pushback on your thesis that, what's the counter argument to this?
I think there are a few. I think probably one of the big ones is affiliate is inelastic, right? Commission goes up, the commission goes down, the traffic stays the same.
Yep.
And if that's true, you shouldn't have an affiliate program to begin with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that the data, again, is probably as scrutinized as possible, is that like whether your affiliate program is very wide and opening, or it is constrained and locked down as tight as possible, if you as an advertiser cross some sort of traffic or revenue threshold, in terms of your leads or in terms of the volume that you're doing, you are leaving money on the table if you don't have an affiliate program. And that's probably doubly true in the LLM era. And actually circle back to what you were just kind of mentioning there, all these mentions, a double-digit percentage of which kind of probably come from affiliate sites. I've seen different numbers, right? I think Lily Ray has presented on that. I think she said 25% or more. I've seen more than 50% by some counts.
What's that metric again?
The critical sites that are referenced for LLM.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 30 to 40 gets referenced a lot in our data, and some of the third parties from like Profound and some of the others calling that out. I think that's close proximity to that 25 number you just referenced.
Yeah, and my guess is that I think some of them are constrained the data set to like the more commercially applicable stuff versus like just more general answer stuff. So if it's commercially applicable, you get like a lot of the more commerce content guys. Coupon content gets queried and other stuff like that versus like, more like, how do I do this in my garden?
Yeah, totally.
And so if a lot of that is like affiliate content site, then, you are making money off of those affiliates writing content about you, right? You as the manufacturer brand or you as the retailer, and you're not giving a penny to those affiliates. And Partnerize has been leading the charge on this with their kind of like LLM attribution, which, kind of came out of their Connecto acquisition last year. And they published something, I think it was last week, that you're seeing like a 3.8, so roughly like 4 times as many transactions would have affiliate in it's not the click stream anymore, right? It's like the thought stream or the reference or reference stream.
Yep.
But, so almost 4 times as much as they're getting credit for. And of course, that credit might be lost for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's a great segue into the AI explosion that we've seen. And how it's small percent gaining massive adoption. I mean, for us also look thinking about like B2B and partner and how much of those decision making things start at the ALM's uh, point of reference is crazy high. I was talking to Brandon in the SaaS world where, they were basically almost entirely partner led. So when we think partnerships and partner led growth, not to derail this into a different direction, but so much of that is really in some ways an affiliate mechanism, which is you are exactly describing and you're advocating for in your book. And I just got off a conversation before this with a brand that's native AI, SaaS. They're not pouring money into LinkedIn ads and Google. They're relying solely on partner.
Good for them. And yeah, no, it is. I think it's actually only going to grow in importance as a channel. And then on the far side of that, we got to figure out uh, monetization mechanisms for it, which I just don't. Nobody really quite knows yet, right?
It's funny because it reminds me, and I'm gonna butcher the name and the reference, but there was an Andreessen investor, and this was talked about like 10 years ago, and I've made some references to it. I want to say maybe it was Connie Chen, but she had talked about kind of the wave of like the micro actions, ways of monetizing, and I think it was becoming observed and measured in a lot of Asia, in consumer. And I wonder if there's maybe a corollary there to look at with what you're advocating for, which is saying, hey, if we take the affiliate model, take the open web, it's a way to save the open web. If we think about ways to transact in an affiliate type way, that's value additive to save it and keep it going. Is that I'll have to pull that up and share that in the notes, but I don't know if there's any reference to that or if there's any. What are your thoughts on that? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I think it kind of goes back to the friction and the sort of like open-heartedness. Right now as it is, the merchants tend to get a lot of information that they don't share with the affiliates, right? So you
Yep.
say, hey, here's everything bad, and I'm not going to pay for that, and that's usually fair. But the affiliates might be able to do a lot more if you say, hey, here's everything good. And I think the elasticity point is really hard to disprove, especially if you get like the example that you just brought up. Some spaces reviews are so important. So I think it's still true from everything from like this last click because like the consumer is looking for something before they have the confidence to buy. And as I always say, like if they don't have that, their default is probably going to be Amazon,
Yeah.
which has its own version with Amazon's choice, right?
Yeah.
That confidence inducer to like a
Yeah.
much longer buy cycle where it's like, hey, what software do I invest in? This is not just money. This is my time, my team's time. And affiliate, the influencer, the creator world, what better way than that? They have the trust, they have the affinity, they have the audiences, and you can work with affiliate. You can scale out to work with thousands of people. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. With AI coming and zero click here and that growing so quickly, how does that play into your suggestions in the book and kind of where you see people rewarding or not rewarding affiliate?
Well, so and I do cover this in the book because it's some of the stuff I think is kind of patterned out, but not the LLM stuff and the monetization. One pathway that seems likely to me would be like enhancing this trust so that when the merchant sees all those signals, the micro signals as you mentioned, that they can share those in some fashion with the affiliate. And that could lead to anything from the affiliate saying, hey, I'm not making a contribution here. And the merchant says, hey, thanks for trying. To the affiliate saying, hey, let's really collaborate on this and do some stuff together, which can be, that can lead to fantastic partnerships. Actually, your last guest talked about how they were trepidatious about working with a retargeter. And I think they ended up being the number one affiliate
Yeah.
for Apollo, right?
Yep.
And then they went away, which whatever happened there.
Yep.
But that's a great example, right? Like, because they probably say, I'm just imagining internally, oh, we can do our own retargeting,
Yep.
but like there's some extra juice the affiliate can add.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful way to enter a partnership, and it's so elegant because the remuneration, is appropriate to the value driven,
Yep.
and no better channel for that. They might have some talent or audience that you don't have. It's elusive to you. That's how you get it.
Yeah.
Um, but in order to like really make that work, it does have to be typically like some partnership. And so we as a channel, I think, are really bad about that because the merchants tend to be guarded. And in fairness too, the merchants deal with fraud, and there's politics inside the merchant. And so I think, you can't just snap your fingers and get past that. I think that the forward-thinking agencies can maybe show a better path, and then the sort of like the herd can kind of catch up to them because the
Yeah.
technology is largely there.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out to the other aspect of the industry that I think is something we appreciate is there's a human on the other side, there's a conversation to be had, and maybe the core model, in this case, maybe like the retargeting play, we'll call it, could be nuanced and complemented in saying, well, let's not fire on these cases, let's fire on these cases. So therefore, you're getting what we estimate to be is more accretive value. And so you're obviously not going to be able to have that conversation with Google. I'm not saying that, Google isn't required as part of your mix, but I think it continues to validate the model, validate the channel, validate affiliate to your point of what, obviously I'm doing the same thing, but your book really calls out in a way that I think captures a lot of your great experiences over the years, which has been tremendous.
Yeah, and so in addition to that information sharing, I would think that something the merchants should move toward would be kind of like a neutral arbitration platform, which, a lot of people don't have, like, because you have your wall garden silos over here. That's where they grade their own homework. And then maybe, you got like a container or something over kind of like here, and everything else lives there. So affiliate reconciles against itself. That doesn't happen with the other channels. And you don't really have like that full picture. So you should take as much of that picture as you can kind of get for internal purposes, which frankly speaking, it's going to be more work. Don't be afraid of doing that work.
Well, and I think that's where people get stuck. Goes back to the friction piece, right? It's like to do this well, it's not as easy as plugging into a Facebook or a Google. And yes, there's challenges to setting up Google and Facebook right, so you don't lose your shirt, as we discussed. But it's sort of that catch-22 of there's insane value here, but it's the hurdle to get there is high. Is that kind of what we're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Not just the hurdle, but frankly, I think the ongoing work too. So
Yes.
yeah, the hurdle is high,
Yeah.
but you wanna leap over that hurdle to be excellent.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel like from the publisher's perspective, in that, that's really interesting with regard to the open web. How much do you cover that in the book, and what are your thoughts there?
One of the things I cover in the book that's pretty interesting is this disillusionment a lot of the publishers have, and this kind of gets away from affiliate into the more open web stuff
Yeah.
because the big news sites, they depend on open web advertising, and they've in the zero click era, from what I can tell, they're hurting more than affiliates because there's still more incentive to click through, which still gets tracked in affiliate. In fact, very recently, like literally in the last couple of weeks, there have been a couple of news articles. Actually, Mike McNerney posted this one on Ad Week mentioning that some affiliates are thinking of going nuclear and blocking Google's crawler, right? Because Google's AI and crawler and their search crawler are conjoined. It seems very deliberate, and they've been called out on this from by the CEO of People and many other players in the space. And so I on a if you can call it a positive note, like at some point, if you have nothing left to lose, like i.e. inbound search traffic, then like maybe it'll force creativity, which apparently a lot of these guys have found, and maybe things will be better on the far side. But there is some short-term pain that we're going for that I think in a lot of respects is undue because basically, the deal was you get a lottery ticket for traffic in exchange for creating the desired content, and now that content is extracted, even coupons, product feed information, all the review stuff, unless it's behind a paywall, and then you can't get any money for it. So that's it's just not fair, right? And so
Yeah.
something's got to give on that. Um, and the good news is that I think there's a lot of ways that we can kind of like approach this. The bad news is that there's a lot of work, and then there's a lot of resistance to it too, of course.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it seems like a call to arms to operate more fairly with regard to the heavy dollars going into, certain key incumbents, if you will, the platforms, you know, that's a big part of this. And it seems like a more uh, fair distribution is sort of what you're calling out as well. Like there's no reason why it needs to be, we need to be like 1/10 of what Google's getting right now based on the value that's there. Is that kind of the direction you're going in with the book?
Yes, and may I bore you with some statistics?
We love data. We love statistics.
You loved it, yes. Okay. Okay, so these are some IAB 2024 numbers. You want to remember the numbers are largely what kind of estimates from the different channels,
Yep.
and they're defined differently.
Yep.
So this one tracks 259 billion in U.S. digital ad spend, goes from search at 103
On a per year.
per year, yeah. Then social media at 89, display 74, digital video at 62, commerce/retail media at 53. So remember, that's not commerce content so much as like Amazon ads. And then podcast at 2.4. So a few things here. So one, that, and they actually have a disclaimer, note channels overlap, a social media video ad
Yep.
counts, both in social and video categories. So in the book, I focus on the walled gardens and then open web programmatic advertising and then affiliate. Which brings us to the second point, which is you'll note affiliate is missing from this list. So by the PMA's numbers, which I think are pretty good, affiliate would probably be in around 12, 13 billion for the 2012 number. That sounds right to you. Way bigger than the podcast, but we're not mentioned on the list. And that's, we overlook this a lot, but like people overlook affiliate. They're confused by affiliate. And we need to really kind of push through to have our seat at the table. And I think people often kind of get confounded by the definition. But we have an opportunity to kind of make that definition more flexible. Kind of already is, right? You do a hybrid deal. It's still basically an affiliate deal. It's done by the affiliate agency. It has a performance, attention, and so forth. And then the other piece of the picture here is, we need to work on the attribution in a big way. And so last week, Hello Partner published an opinion piece by me, arguing, and I called it like affiliate marketing needs to get ratioed in the sense that you have like the deterministic, say, click, this sale associated with this click, and then you have like the probabilistic estimates. So, and this is where Partnerize is arguing from a probabilistic perspective, affiliates contributing 4 times more, which I find totally plausible, by the way. And so if you look at these other channels, they're kind of getting credit for basically the probabilistic part of things. And so what we should push forward with this kind of universal attribution concept is to say, look, we're confident in our channel. We're not afraid to take the challenge. We're going to put ourselves out there, and then we'll come up with 2 numbers for every channel. One is the deterministic thing where there's something very specific, and then, you track it through to the user, anonymized, of course. And then 2 is the probabilistic. And we'll compare. So not just to say like, hey, affiliate got credited for 1, but it contributed 4, but we'll look at the ratio of affiliate versus the other channels. I believe affiliate will compare favorably in multiple respects. And I think it's up to us in the channel to really push for that. I think that's going to be very healthy for our channel, and deservedly so.
Yeah, I can almost see it's almost sounding like a universal attribution standard is the direction you're going in.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that's needed so badly for whatever close approximation to a governing body there is. It's needed from the network, agency, publisher, brand side of things. And I would even, and this is part of some of our recent conversation and conversations with others, where I think looking ahead to the importance of incrementality, which is really from the brand's perspective, as you know, how they're really looking at value here. And so you've got to have that attribution question standardized a little bit better, I think. I think similarly, I think you have to have the impression exposure data and start to speak the language of the MMMs more effectively, something we've been talking about too, because I think that's the next step. We're not even at second base yet in baseball. And I think that to be able to get that standard would be amazing. And then hopefully as part of that, we can get some standards around, hey, you're going to benefit by showing, transparency or referring URL. You're going to benefit by showing exposure and impression data, because then the brands that are cutting the checks can say, I have so much more trust in this. I have so much more transparency in this process, I'm going to give it the more attention that it deserves, which I think is the great thesis of your book.
Yeah, and that trust should really go both ways.
Hmm.
I hate to say a lot of we were talking about this at lunch,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of merchants get away with, broken tracking
Yeah.
and problems on their
Yeah.
websites. They can't get their data out. We see
They're not incentivized to fix it either.
no, and it's crazy. I mean, that's actually why I see as a business is like so much of the coupon data that comes out is bad.
Yeah.
The landing page, the code doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's mislabeled. The same
Yeah.
thing with product feeds.
Yep.
And so it's great that we have a business cleaning that up.
Yep.
But it would be it'd be better if it weren't an issue to begin with, because
Yeah.
there's always going to be more data to process.
Yep.
And so yeah, no, it definitely goes both ways, and you can realize that the best possible if you believe in the value of the channel, right? So you get more resources to the channel, because we're often you got to get the developers hours, and it's got to go in the queue and stuff, as well as like dollar budgets. There's a very good case to be made for expanding that affiliate. It's happening right now too, which is awesome, right? This vast expanse of the creator economy, along with all the other existing, the coupon, the cash back, some of the arbitrage guys, all the emailers, just tons and tons of affiliate models. We really offer. I mean, it's very diverse, right? There's just so much interesting
Yeah.
stuff, so many ways to engage with affiliate as the advertiser.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like there is a bit of that race to like develop that trust and improve. I mean, even with Meta's rolling out of their incremental attribution solution, I'm seeing some early data come through on that. And I think, again, it's not necessarily going to answer your concerns, but I think there's going to be that battle for wallet from the marketer. It's not going to end. And I think we have an opportunity, I think, to rip that Band-Aid off a little bit, follow some of the suggestions from your book and keep moving this thing forward in a positive direction. I think that's brilliant. I think that's what we're all trying to do. And it's all for the greater good, really. I mean, if you want, I would rather to say we all want to compete on a level playing field to some extent, and to have enough information so people can make an informed decision to say, yeah, if we don't perform as well as video ads or podcast ads, it's fantastic. That's the way it breaks. It doesn't mean you necessarily don't have an affiliate offering or you don't de-invest, but maybe it just changes that balance for that particular situation. You'd rather win in a fair game than one that's rigged.
Yeah, and in theory, that could be remedied with, for example, adjustments in the tracking methodology, adjustments in the commission rate, changing over to new advertisers, changing over to new publishers.
Yep.
A really important thing not to lose sight of is in affiliate, we are very focused on the intra-channel competition and conflicts. We lose sight of the inter-channel competition and conflicts.
Yep.
And I don't think the other channels do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a huge one. This is awesome. I can't wait to read the book. Where can people find it, and how can people buy it?
Well, thank you so much for your support.
We're plugging it. We're plugging it hard.
Yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who's let me know they bought copies so far. I think it will be very much worth reading. It's available on Amazon, of course.
Yep.
Barnes and Noble, and
remove the friction.
Simon and Schuster. You gotta face reality.
Good, all three.
Yeah.
I'll see how many Barnes and Nobles that orders come through.
Yeah.
Hopefully some. They're making a bit of a comeback, huh?
I hope so. I'm cheering for them.
Brook, you're the man. You came on right before your big trip to Japan, and we thank you for that. And it's always a pleasure to see you in Austin.
Pleasure to see you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. See you, buddy. Thanks, everybody.